What's going on, guys? Back with another review for you today. Do not have a fancy box to introduce with this video. Sadly, the box is long gone. I could not tell you where it's at. But today, I'm going to change it up and do a little bit of a fixed blade review for you. All the knives up to this point have been folders. Figured I'd just change it up and throw in a fixed blade. So let's get going. What I have here for you is and it's still dirty because it has been used. Chunks of stuff everywhere. Have here is the Bradford Guardian 3. As you can see, this one I got pretty early on, right after these kind of hit the scene. I think it was right after I read my first review on, right after they came out, was when I kind of jumped on this and picked one up. So this is an earlier production one. This one, as you can see right there, is an N690. They do come in a multitude of blade steels, all of which are premium steels. They don't really have any budget steels in the Guardian 3 line. I just wanted to talk about this knife. I've used this knife at work quite a bit. Sometimes it's just better to have a fixed blade knife. Even if it is a small fixed blade knife, sometimes a fixed blade knife is better suited for certain tasks than a folding knife is. And that's what I found using this knife at work. It's not good. It's not good advice. A lot of the work I've done with knives, it just makes me feel better having a fixed blade because I've used knives for stuff they're not intended to be used for. And I have been in situations where I was thinking to myself, man, I hope the lock doesn't give out because if the knife folds on me, I'm going to lose all my fingers. So it is nice having a fixed blade when you need it. This one I picked up actually from Amazon. Like I said, I got them shortly after they came out. I think I paid about $110, $120 for this knife. That's for the knife and the sheath, leather sheath that comes with it. Very well made, very high quality sheath from Bradford. I think these knives are really good value. For $110, $120 for this model, not for every model, but for this model, you're getting a hand-finished American-made knife. These knives are made in Kent, Washington, right here in the US of A. They're just a really high-quality knife, especially for what you pay for it. This one in particular has a spear point blade. It is flat ground from the swedge all the way down. This is a stonewash finish. They do have multiple finishes available. They have multiple blade styles available and multiple blade steels available. Like I said, this was one of the earlier ones, and at the time these came out, I'm wanting to say the only two options for blade steels were N690 and M390. I could be wrong on that. And in all honesty, I don't want to say I wish I had gotten the M390 because there's absolutely nothing wrong with the N690 steel on this knife. It has been a great knife. Bowler N690 is a great steel. I just kind of prefer the properties of M390 better. Don't ask me what it is in particular. I'm not sure. I just like M390 a little bit better. And the M390 wasn't that much of an upcharge compared to the N690, so I kind of wish I just went ahead and got the M390 version. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I have this knife, and I've been super happy with this knife since I've got it. This is the N690 version. This has a 3.5-inch blade on it. The cutting edge is actually only 3 inches, but the total blade length is 3.5. You do see you have a very generous finger choil here, and even for me, I have extra large hands. My finger fits in the choil very nicely. I'm not really getting pushed up onto the actual cutting edge. As far as the overall on the knife, as you can see, with my finger in the choil, I can get roughly 3.5 fingers on here. My pinky is kind of on there, kind of not. For what this knife is intended for, that's fine with me. I don't need, this isn't for my use anyway. I know this knife could be pushed into a backup roll as sort of a self-defense knife, and that's what a lot of people have carried this knife for. That's not what this knife is for me, so I don't need a full, what I would call a combat grip on it. So it's not that big of a deal. 3.5 inch blade overall, 3-inch cutting edge. The handle on this knife, so from the front of the scale right here to the tip, is 3.25 inches, 3.25 inches. I know someone will eventually ask me why I don't use millimeters. It's because I'm from Alabama and I do not know millimeters. I go inch by inch on my channel. It's got a 3.25 inch handle, and these are the OD Green checkered G10 scales. There are many different choices to choose from. Like I said, many different blade shapes, blade steels, blade finishes. The same applies to the handles. There are many different handle choices you can get. They have two main categories. They have this one, which is the checkered G10. As you can see, it's a flat profile. If it will focus. It is a flat profile with the checkering. The other option is what they call their 3D scales. And with those, it is more of a contoured scale. So it would have a slight palm swell right here on this side, and it's more rounded off in the corners. Looking back, because I have handled one of those, I've got a buddy who has one. I wish I had gotten the 3D scales for this knife. Like I said, I have extra large hands, and this knife, for what I'm using it for, is perfectly fine because I'm not really just bearing down on this knife. But if I were to be using this knife much more than I do on a daily basis, the 3D scales really do fill my hands up much better than these checkered scales do. It just has a more substantial feel in the hand. I feel like I can get a better grip on the knife. Those are also G10 scales, and you can get those, just like these, you can get tons of different color and pattern options with these scales. Both the checkered and the 3D scales, they have many different color variations that you can get. It's kind of just pick your flavor. The overall length on this knife is 6.75 inches from tip to butt. Good overall length, especially for the style of knife this is and how it's intended to be carried, which will kind of bring me to the sheath. The sheath right here, very nice leather sheath. I do like leather. I enjoy carrying leather products. Leather is not my favorite for sheaths, in my opinion. Not for this style of knife anyway. If I'm carrying a hunting knife or just a bushcraft knife to some type on a, if me and my buddies are going camping, something like that, and I can carry something like a dangler, I don't mind a leather sheath. But this sheath is intended to be horizontal belt carry. So it would ride long ways on your torso. If this is your belt right here, the knife would ride like this. I do honestly prefer that style carry. I find it doesn't get in the way near as much as something like a dangler would in day-to-day work. If I tried to wear a dangler to work, a knife banging on the outside of my leg all day, I do not see it lasting the day before it got ripped off at some point. With this, it stays tucked up close to your body, against your belt, generally under your shirt, under another article of clothing. it's not going to go anywhere. But again, I've mentioned it in other videos, I live in Alabama. It's very hot, it's very humid, and I work outdoors, and I sweat a lot. Leather will soak up every bit of moisture that it comes in contact with. It's like a sponge. And it's because of that that I don't prefer leather sheaths like this for carry. I would much prefer, I know there are multiple sheath makers now who make sheaths for the Guardian. The armless carry Kydex sheaths, something along those lines, I would much prefer that. I've been meaning to pick one up for a while, but again, I just have so many knives in rotation that I never spend enough time with one knife to really get around to doing what I want to do with it. Eventually, I am going to pick up one of those sheaths, a Kydex sheath of some type. I'm not dead set on the Armitage sheath, but that was just the first one that came to mind. I would much prefer that. And honestly, for retention reasons, I just like, as you can see, if I stick this knife in here, there's no real... The knife holds good. It doesn't fall out of the sheath. The sheath is molded very well to the knife. But I like much like any other Kydex sheath or gun holster or anything like that, I like a positive click. I like to know the knife is locked in, it's not going anywhere. I want to have to remove the knife intentionally for the knife to come out. That's just me. You know, you can rock with what you want to. I'm not going to judge you one way or the other. The whole time I've been carrying this knife, I've been doing it in this sheath, and it's worked just fine. I've not lost this knife yet. It's held up fine. The leather's held up fine, and leather ages really well too. It's kind of like a brass or a copper pen or knife or something like that. It kind of gets that patina to it, that aged look to it that I really like. I wish I liked the leather sheaths more. I really did enjoy carrying this one. I just like how it looks, how it ages, and it's comfortable. That's another thing about leather. It will be more forgiving against your body than a Kydex sheath will. Kydex will not give it all. Leather, it is more supple. It will give, you know, it's got a slight cushion to it. That is one thing to be said about the sheath. Like I said, I prefer Kydex. I've been meaning to get around to getting one. I wish I had one while I was doing this review, but unfortunately I don't. That's really all I have to say. This being a fixed blade knife, it's a lot easier on me to review than a folding knife. There's less to go into. As you can see, this is a full tang knife. The metal runs all the way from the tip to the butt. It's one piece of steel with some scales bolted onto it. I'm not getting rid of this knife anytime soon. I do like this knife. I am going to get a pair of the 3D scales for this knife. I do not know what color yet. I haven't decided. I do want to get some of the 3D scales for this knife, and I am also going to get one of the Armitage carry sheaths for it. Now, just a word before you run out and order something. Most of the Kydex sheaths for the Guardian 3 do depend on what handle scales you have. So with Armitage, they have a sheath specific for these 2D checkered grips, and they have a specific sheath for the 3D grips. So if you do have one of these knives or buy one of these knives and decide you want to get a Kydex sheath for it, just make sure before you run out and order one that the handle scales that you have on your knife are going to correspond with the sheath that you are getting. If I were to order the Armitage sheath right now for this knife with 3D scales, with 3D grips on it, it would not fit on this knife. The retention wouldn't be right because it's made to fit around the 3D scales, not these. Yeah, that's about it. The fit and finish on this knife is really good. You can see down the tang right here, it does have some machining lines, but I do not mind that at all. I think that adds character to the knife. And honestly, if that had been completely ground down and polished, that would just pick up fingerprints. And I'm not a super OCD person, obviously, because all my knives I show you are dirty. But fingerprints do bother me. And that's what I like about this knife. Between the stonewash finish on the blade and then this kind of rough industrial look the rest of the way around, it doesn't pick up any fingerprints. Been putting this off to the end. Y'all know my opinion on lanyard holes. I don't care for them, but on this knife, it's not in the way. It's not bothering me. When I hold it in my hand, I do not feel it. I cannot tell it's there, so it's really a non-issue. This knife weighs in right around 4 ounces. Nah, a little less, about 3.5 ounces. I think it's right around 3.5 ounces this knife weighs. That's really good for a fixed blade, especially a fixed blade knife with a 3.5 inch blade. You're getting a lot of blade for the weight with this knife. It does have good jimping on the top, as you can see. It's just sharp enough it bites into your thumb. But just as a comparison for this knife, I wanted to bring in one more knife. Give me a moment. This is the Benchmade Bug Out. I made a previous video on it. This one, it has been slightly customized. It has Flytanium scales on it. But overall, this knife is still completely factory. It's the same size. I just kind of wanted to show you this as a size comparison. If I line them up, butt to butt right there, you can see the Bug Out is longer. I would say roughly 3/4 of an inch longer overall on the Bug Out, but blade length is almost identical. I would say the cutting edge on these knives is identical. It's going to be the same. The overall length on the overall blade length on the Guardian 3 is going to be just a hair longer, maybe a 1/4 inch longer. But, as you can see, the Bug Out has much more handle available. The Bug Out, I can get a full 4-finger grip on. It's not really cramped. I'm pushing towards the end of the knife, but it's not bad. Whereas on the Guardian 3, with my finger in the choil, my pinky's kind of doesn't really have anywhere to go. I can get it on there, but it's a struggle. These knives are not direct competitors. They could flex into the same role, but I just kind of wanted to show you these as a general size comparison, just so you can get an idea. I know the Bug Out is very well known. Many people have one, or have at least handled one. So just to give you a general size comparison of how big the Guardian 3 is. Overall, this is a great knife. I'm not saying that I would never sell this knife, but if I did, it wouldn't be because I didn't like the knife. It would just be because I found something else that I wanted to try. I try not to get emotionally attached to any certain gear. I buy and sell and trade a lot of gear. I move quite a bit, and if I ever did get rid of this knife, it would just be for that reason, just to try something else. There's nothing wrong with this knife. It's a great knife. It's made by a great company right here in America. I'll always try to support an American company if possible. Now, I know that's not always feasible, and I'm not saying that should always be the case. I have many, many, many Chinese-made, Taiwanese-made knives, but when I can, and when it's the logical thing to do, I do try to support American companies. Like I said, these are made right here in Kent, Washington. They're great knives. This is the only knife I've ever tried from Bradford. I've got a buddy who has a Guardian 3.5, slightly larger than this. It's a very good knife too. It's very similar to this knife, just kind of larger overall. They have other knives. You can check their website. The next one I would really be looking at for me is the Guardian 5. It's more getting into a full bushcraft style knife. You have a full handle, bigger blade. I really would like to try one of those out. Maybe I'll pick one of those up eventually, and I'll let y'all see it on here, tell you what I think about it. Anyway, just wanted to show you this one. If you have any questions about this knife or something interesting that I may not know about it, something you want to tell me, feel free to leave a comment, shoot me a message. I'd like to hear your guys' opinion on it, what you think about them. Yeah, let me know. Appreciate it. See y'all next time.